What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lettermen Row. It is a special edition of the program. We have Pete Nakos from On3, Lettermen Row's friend, Spencer Holbrook's friend. Pete, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, Pete, let's talk about it. NIL, house settlement, transfer portal, you do it all. We're talking about the house settlement today. What in the hell is going on, Pete?
So college sports and the NCAA are all still kind of waiting for this judge to rule if she's going to approve or deny this settlement, which would put billions of dollars in back pay into action and start revenue sharing in college sports, which is everything that someone at Ohio State would care about because it's going to have to do with paying next year's roster. And it sounds like we're going to get a decision here in the next 10 days or so, maybe a little bit later than that, but it keeps moving on later and later on when this decision could come.
Okay, so with all of that, everybody wants to know about roster limits because I know people care about how much guys are getting paid and care about the direct payments instead of NIL, but I think people are kind of worried about these roster limits because we are 3 or 4 months from kickoff and we don't know how many people are allowed on a roster. What are you hearing? So, what's going on with the roster limits right now that you know?
Yeah, so yesterday, the NCAA attorneys and the plaintiffs' attorneys, right, those are the people representing all the athletes in this situation, responded to the judge and said that they're going to grandfather in roster limits. So any athlete who had been told that their roster spot was going to be cut in 25 or 2026, that academic year, they're going to be grandfathered in and have the opportunity to play next year. And the one interesting wrinkle is if that athlete, has already left that program and they decide to transfer, they have transferred, the grandfathering in includes them. So athletes will have that extra year to still play on a team no matter what they ended up doing.
Okay, so is it going to dwindle down? Or are we going to get down to a 105? Are we going to get to a 120? Are we looking at 90? Is it all going to dwindle down, or do you think that it's going to just kind of remain at a certain level and stay there?
Yeah, so it's going to be 105 for football when it all is said and done. I don't expect that number to be perfect in the next 2 years just because things are being grandfathered in. But yeah, when it's I couldn't tell you the exact date for when it's actually going to be 105 for the Ohio State roster, but it's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, I'd imagine.
Okay, so the other question that a lot of people have is with direct payments, is this called a salary cap? Is this called a stipend? Is it called a monetary limit? What will Ohio State, because they're going to spend whatever the limit is, they're going to be there because they're one of the top spenders in the whole country. Everybody knows that. But Ohio State fans care about Ohio State. So, how much is Ohio State going to be allowed to pay its athletes on the football field and in the athletic department on the whole?
So the salary cap, whatever you want to call it, for year one of revenue sharing is $20.5 million for the entire athletic department. So I'd expect Ohio State's going to spend between $13 to $15 million on its roster in rev sharing. But and I know it's been schools are not going to stop at that mark when it comes to paying rosters, right? I know there's a report recently Texas is going to spend 35 to 40 million. That number is a little less than that, I think, but from what I've been told, but at the end of the day, roster sizes are going up, and same with it, budgets. And the example I always give is Will Howard made about $1 to $1.5 million last year. There's quarterbacks in the transfer portal this year who are going to make over $3 million. They're not going to take less money just because of revenue sharing now. So the NIL collectives, the brand deals that we all see with Chipotle's and Columbus and things like that, those aren't going away. If anything, they're going to be more important to, circumvent the salary cap.
Okay, so, and again, this is all 101 because there's a lot of people who really just don't know what's going on and what this is going to look like. So 13.5 to 15 million directly from the school. And then tack on 20 million, 25 million from NIL partnerships.
At least for Ohio State, at least 10 million from everything I've heard.
Okay, so are collectives still going to be involved here? Do we think that it's all going to go the way of the dodo and you're just going to have guys with their agents doing these? Or do you think that collectives and those kind of entities are still going to be a factor in college football.
So with this settlement, there's supposed to be an NIL clearinghouse. So for like any third party deal that Julian Sane, for instance, does, it's going to have to go through this clearinghouse. So if he signs a
Okay.
brand deal or a deal with a collective, there's supposed to be this clearinghouse that will like vet the contract and make sure it's legit money and all that. We'll see if that actually works. A lot of people think that that's going to be taken to court and things like that. So if that works or not remains to be seen. That could theoretically impact collectives. But if it impacts how collectives do business now, which is signing contracts with athletes, I think we're going to see us maybe go back 10 years or so, and we're going to see more, under the table payments happen.
Okay. All right. Well, I think everybody understands fully the house settlement in its entirety now, and we're all experts here because of you, Pete. I appreciate that. Let's switch gears a little bit. I wanted to get your take on a couple things. The spring transfer portal kind of sucked. There wasn't a lot in there as far as like what we're concerned with, Ohio State level talent. Why? And do you think that it's all because of good programs are keeping good players now once they get them, or is it as simple as that? And do you think that the spring portal is kind of it's kind of a bust from here on out until they switch the calendar?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Ohio State didn't lose a scholarship player in the spring portal. One of the few places to do so. So tip of the cap to them. But I think you saw a lot of the reason why a lot of people didn't go in the portal is a lot of people got pay raises. You look at what happened with Tennessee with Nico Amaleva. A lot of Big 12, Big 10, and ACC quarterbacks got pay raises not to enter the transfer portal and go to Tennessee. So there's that. I guess the other thing too that we're starting to see is, and it goes back to everything with the quarterbacks, players don't want to lead. Players don't want to be the Nico. Players don't want to be the guy who picks up everything and leaves in the spring. And all of a sudden, the place where he had connections for 3 years never wants to like have their name tied to them again. So I think that's a real thing, mixed with the fact that schools are paying more money. The winter window is just pure free agency where guys are going in. The spring is turned into this period of time where players leverage their opportunities. Sometimes they stay, sometimes they leave. But for top players, it's a chance at a pay raise.
Do you think that in a weird roundabout way, Nico Iamaleava is kind of the next wave of what we're going to see in the portal, and not from his perspective, but from Tennessee's perspective, where a player goes to the program and wants a pay raise, the program says, better luck next year after we see a little bit more, and then that player leaves? Like, do you think that's like the next iteration here? Because it seemed like for so long the players had every bit of leverage here.
Yeah.
And Tennessee kind of called a bluff, and now it has a different quarterback. Do you think we're going to see other programs kind of start to call some bluffs here?
Yeah, I think we'll see more bluffs called in the years to come. But, the other interesting thing that is going to be a legit case study this year is like, how do things play out at Tennessee? Like, should Tennessee have paid the money to keep Nico? Morally, a lot of people say no, they shouldn't have, but we'll see how things go on the football field this year.
Well, yeah, because if they're 6-6 and Nico is 6-6 at UCLA, 6-6 at Tennessee and 6-6 at UCLA are two different things. And so then you could say, well, maybe they should have paid him just whatever he wanted because Joey Aguilar. But if Joey Aguilar's just replacement level, he's fine. Then
sure, yeah. If UCLA makes a bowl game, though, I think that's a win for UCLA.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're going to get a win in mid-November when they come to Columbus. Okay, you talk to a lot of people. You talk to a lot of different sources. Just your take on this Ohio State roster. You've watched it be built through NIL and things like that. You're sourced up at Ohio State. What's your, from a national perspective and from almost an NIL perspective, like what's the current outlook at Ohio State? Like how is Ohio State perceived right now after the national championship? How are they doing on the NIL front? Because we just kind of track them on the field and in the recruiting, but we know what recruiting entails now. So from your point of view with the house settlement and the NIL and that kind of stuff, like where do you see Ohio State right now? And is there anything that you think Ohio State should be doing that maybe they're kind of not at this very moment?
No, I mean, I think Ohio State's in a good spot. They just won a national title for the first time since 2014. A lot of people have liked what the new athletic director has done in Ross Bjork. I think Ohio State continues to be one of those top 5 programs people continually talk about when it comes to college football. I guess on a more micro level, the question everyone around college football is asking this spring about Ohio State is what happens at that quarterback position. Is it Julian Sayin? Is it Lincoln Keenholz? I think a lot of people had their eye on Columbus this spring to see if there was going to be a outright winner of the competition, because whoever was going to leave was suddenly going to be one of the top quarterbacks available, and that didn't happen. So this is obviously going to carry over into August. We'll see, how it kind of shuffles out. But that is a question everyone in kind of college football has about Ohio State at this moment.
All right. Well, that's all I have for you, Pete. I noticed a little dog on your sweatshirt, on your pullover there. I think you use the code Lettermen20 for 20% off, a generous 20% off your first order at Rhoback Activewear. Best fit, best feel. Go to Rhoback.com. Use code Lettermen20 for 20% off. I'm wearing my Rhoback. Pete's in the Nashville office wearing his Rhoback. Between episodes of The Solid Verbal with Dan and Ty, between appearances on Feinbaum, and between breaking every transfer portal story under the sun and covering all this NIL stuff, Pete Nakos gives us 10 minutes of his time. We could not be more grateful. Hopefully I get to see Pete soon. We're good buddies. Most of you already know that by now. That's Pete Nakos on the other side of your screen. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Go ahead, Pete.
Are we supposed to see each other next week?
Absolutely. I'm going to get to watch Pete swing a golf club about 400 times in the next, week and a half. I absolutely cannot wait. It's going to be an absolute blast. Ohio State fans, you got to see Pete's golf swing. And more importantly, you got to go check out Pete over on social media, because that's where he's breaking all the transfer portal stuff. Pete, thanks for coming on, man. Always appreciate having you.
You bet. Thanks, Spence.